Since the 1980s, high-profile Asian gangs have resided in Orange County. Some of the most notorious Asian gangs that exist within this county are the Asian Boys, Tiny Rascals, Hua Ching, Santanas, Oriental Boys, Vietnamese Boys, Knit 14, Dragon Family, and the list can go on and on. Needless to say, when it comes to counties with heavy Asian gang activity, Orange County makes that list without a doubt. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at Orange County as a whole. But if you would like to see a video dedicated to a certain gang within this county, make sure you leave it in the comments section. But before we get into the video, I just want to give a huge thank you to all of my supporters. 2021 was an insane year for my channel, and I'm excited to see where we end up at the end of year 2022. And with that being said, I hope all of you guys had a great time with your families during the holidays. But without further ado, let's get into it. Orange County may be home to one of the most iconic resorts located within Southern California, and arguably the worst place to propose to someone if you want the relationship to succeed. The county is a tourist center with attractions like Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, Angel Stadium, downtown Santa Ana, and the Honda Center. But other than being home to these landmarks, shit has been going down in these streets. Garden Grove, Westminster, and Fountain Valley had high levels of Asian gang presence. These three cities had several Vietnamese gangs, but also had a couple Korean gangs. And there was also a Filipino hood called Acro Boys Crazy. Other cities with notable gang presence are Santa Ana, Anaheim, and Buena Park. Much like the Asian gangs of San Gabriel Valley, the Asian hoods located within Orange County are very mobile and they don't really claim streets. Now, one of the few Asian gangs that actually claims a street within Orange County are probably the Tiny Rascals and the We Don't Care Crips. The Asian Boys have been in Orange County since the 80s, and it's believed that members from the Long Beach and Van Nuys clique would bounce back and forth between Long Beach, San Gabriel, and Orange County, and somewhere during that time, the Anaheim Asian Boys were formed. The Tiny Rascals have been on Mini Street in Santa Ana since the 80s and are considered to be one of the first TRG cliques. Shortly after they formed, another clique formed in Garden Grove, which consisted of mostly Vietnamese members. Hua Ching has been in Orange County since the late 80s or early 90s, and some of the sides that resided here in Orange County were T-Side, Sunnyside, and Monterey Parkside. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, popular hustles were home invasion, gambling houses, extortion, and slanging. Present day, Asian gangs in Orange County have strayed away from home invasions. Nowadays, they are known for controlling or acting as security for gambling houses, also known as slap houses.
You're looking at security tape of SWAT officers serving a search warrant on an illegal gambling house inside an Anaheim furniture store. You can see suspects breaking windows to get out, filing out, then running across the street and scattering in every direction. Police say the illegal operation was a slap house. Dozens of complaints from neighbors led officers to the building. Inside, they found drugs, guns, cash, and illegal video arcade games.
The Asian gangs in Orange County would usually recruit young, some as young as 9 years old. But there were a couple organized crime groups that didn't really recruit youngsters and they only stuck to recruiting adults. Some of the high schools with higher Asian gang activity were Bosa Grande, Westminster, Santiago High School, Century High School, and La Quinta. Some of the most intense rivalries between these gangs are between the Cheap Boys versus the Knit Family, Cheap Boys versus the Natoma Boys, Tiny Rascals versus basically everybody, and Dragon Family versus the Young Lokes. And back in the mid-2000s, there was an alliance between Hellside, Tiny Rascals, and the Tiny Oriental Posse, and they were going at it pretty tough with the power of Vietnamese Together, and Asian Family. But the most notable rivalry has got to be between the Cheap Boys and the Knit Family. Back in the year 1995, 6 members of Vietnamese street gangs in Orange County, mostly members of the Cheap Boys, were shot during 6 separate incidents. Lam Tan Nguyen, and we're gonna call him L for short, was believed to be involved in all 6 shootings and was a member of the Knit family. On July 21st, 1994, Tony Nguyen was giving some members of the Cheap Boys a ride home. He stopped at a green light on Garden Grove Boulevard, and when the light turned green, the car in the other lane started letting off shots and sped off. This shooting resulted in Tony being paralyzed from the neck down. On Thanksgiving, November 24th, 1994, Huey Wen was shot multiple times inside Mission Control in Garden Grove. This shooting left Huey partially paralyzed, and the shooter is believed to be our man L. On February 5th, 1995, Cheap Boys gang member Sang Wen was shot and killed outside of Dong Khan restaurant in Westminster. On March 11th, 1995, L and other gang members fired several shots at rivals outside Rack and Q pool hall. Koi Huen had been playing pool with some of his friends when he decided to leave and was shot by L several times until eventually being helped into a nearby liquor store. Koi was shot a total of 7 times but survived. On January 28, 1999, defendant Lam Tan Wen was sentenced for 2 felony counts of murder with special circumstances for committing multiple murders, 2 felony counts of attempted murder, and 3 felony counts of street terrorism. He currently sits on death row and has been for the past 22 years and 11 months. Needless to say, a lot has changed within the streets of Orange County since the mid-2000s. Since the early 2000s. Bloodshed between these Asian gangs have definitely gone down since then. And a lot of these Asian gangs have put their differences aside and started focusing on getting money. And let's be honest, for the past few years, it's been rather calm in Orange County. Aside from a couple shootings at random slap houses throughout the city, gang violence has gone down a lot. And I'm pretty sure somewhere down the line, the Asian gangs realized that this murder shit and dropping bodies is way too hot, and it probably brings way too much unwanted attention to whatever they got going on as far as money plays or hustles or whatever. And even though most of the time their ways of getting money isn't always the most morally ethic ways, I think we need to celebrate anything that's gonna bring the level of violence down. All of these gangs have been fighting since the 80s, and we've seen a bunch of alliances between a lot of Asian gangs that used to beef, such as Watching and Asian Boys. So if they can put their differences aside, anything is possible. Some of these gang beefs will probably never go away because this shit runs deep for a lot of members that are actually about this life. But if we could focus on sticking together and getting this money, I think that's a step in the right direction. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you leave it a like and don't forget to subscribe because I'm dropping videos every single week. But until next time, I'll be seeing you guys later. Peace.
This shovel slow. I saw the money in this coke, started pushing blow. I'm in too deep, can't take it back to the hotel. In every meeting, all we talk about is wholesale. It's getting hot, huh? And getting heavy, watching powder turn to rocks. It's a cocaine chemistry.
Nitiringan na kayo, hey, maayong tawang uban wakabalo. Daganang natabangan ugos-akos na salo. Yo, 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 long live albang kaparo. Hey, mga dragon, nitiringan na kayo.
Mr. Prankster's back, I'm putting Orange County on the motherfucking map. This the county full of real G's, SA, Asian, Samoan, Tongan, Bloods and Crips, and all my low rider car club. Bang your motherfucking logo and hit the switch and let it bounce. So make that shit bounce on